Hello, Jason here, and today I want to talk about what humanity can accomplish if enough of us put our hearts and minds into it. I remember the first time I saw the extraordinary accomplishments of America in the 1960s and early 70s and actually putting a man on a moon. I really don't know how to describe the feeling other than just sheer awe. Just amazing what we can do if enough of us put our minds to it. The people of the United States had a united vision after the famous speech from John F. Kennedy.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
He, of course, was assassinated not long after this speech. And I think the American people wanted to kind of uphold his legacy as part of this space program, which became the Apollo program later on. Not to mention, of course, we were embroiled in the Cold War with the Soviet Union, or with Russia, and they had an early lead on us in missile technology. They could lift larger objects into space with their rockets, and that obviously also had an effect on the American psyche. Also helpful for the moon mission, for the Apollo program, that the vice president, Lyndon B. Johnson, was the head of the space program while Kennedy was president. And so when Kennedy was assassinated, Lyndon B. Johnson took over and, of course, pushed forward with the space program, with the Apollo program and the missions leading up to the Apollo program. I don't really know how to convey how incredible, how amazing it is that we managed to land a man on the moon. It really took a lot of people working together and working hard with that common vision to make it happen. Only 3 countries have ever managed to land anything on the moon, and that is the United States, Russia, and more recently China. The Apollo program did land a dozen astronauts on the moon in over 6 missions. But we currently don't have any robots on the moon. We do have a lunar orbiter that's going around the poles of the moon. And China has landed on the backside of the moon several times, although they do not provide any photos of what they're actually doing over there, which is interesting. Do we have another Cold War brewing? Please check out the video, The Space Race to the Moon, which I have linked in the description along with all the other things that I will be talking about today. You can find those links there as well. Yeah, the way that the American people worked together to accomplish that goal of landing on the moon was just awe. I don't know how else to express it. It was, we can do anything if we put our minds to it. So that goal was not sufficient then, and it is not sufficient today. We need to go back to the moon, and we need to put hardware down. We need to unite behind a common goal and really get the space program going. What we need to do is we need to put a mass driver on the moon. Now, a mass driver is similar to the coil gun that Gerard O'Neill envisioned.
A working scale model of the machine that could solve some of the problems of large-scale space construction has been developed. It is called a mass driver. Futurist Dr. Gerard O'Neill of the Space Studies Institute.
This is the bucket of a mass driver electric motor. The bucket carries a payload of lunar material, and it's accelerated by these magnetic coils with an acceleration that's more than 100 times as fast as the hottest drag racer ever made.
It's the same idea. Coil gun, mass driver, rail gun is very similar. The Gauss rifle, this is the same idea. Of course, we want a mass driver to enable us to launch objects off the moon. We want to be able to launch raw materials. Perhaps we want to launch refined goods. We want to be able to get stuff into space, and a mass driver on the moon is what we need. It would do it very efficiently. It would be essentially free once we have the infrastructure in place. Now, I want to take a quick aside to kind of show you the math as far as how we are going to construct this track or the mass driver. Because on the moon, you actually don't have to create a sealed chamber. You could basically have a railroad track that electromagnetically shoots your object.
Okay. In order to find the length of the track, which we'll call D over here, we have this formula here. And we're going to use the acceleration that Gerard O'Neill got in his third mass driver experiment, which was 1800 G. This was back in the 70s. We could probably do better than this, but we'll use this as a number. And then we need to find what 1800 G equals. And that's 1800 times gravity, which is 9.8 meters per second. So we have this number 17,640 meters per second squared. Well, the velocity that we need to get is a lunar escape velocity. We have here 2,380 meters per second. And now all we need to do is kind of plug and chug and we can get our numbers. Here we have the math and we get 160 meters long, so less than a quarter of a mile. That's at 1800 G's, and of course that's for durable things like ore or construction materials. But what about for humans? Well, 3 Gs, that's less than any rocket launches at by a little bit, so astronauts can handle that. Healthy people could handle that pretty easily, and it's actually pretty easy to figure it out once you kind of figure it out the first time, because the distance or the length of the track is inversely proportional to the acceleration. So we're going from 1800 G down to 3 G, and this is a factor of 600. So all we have to do is increase our track length by 600. 160 meters times 600, we got 96,333 meters, or 96 kilometers, which is about 60 miles. And if you wanted to go ahead and go down to 1 G so that anybody could handle it, well, then you're going to have to make your track 3 times longer, or 180 miles.
We can't afford to continue sending all the materials we need for space colonization up from Earth. Water alone, estimated by NASA, is about $25,000 a gallon to get up into low Earth orbit for the International Space Station. And we need a massive amount of materials. So the rockets are just kind of a short-term solution. We need to start sending our ore from the moon or from the asteroid belt, and that's why we need this mass driver. The moon has the same raw materials as we do on Earth. Once we have the equipment up there, it should be actually easier to mine things. It will be easier to build structures on the moon because of the lower gravity. We don't have winds. In order for us to tap into the limitless resources in space, we really need this mass driver on the moon. That's the big piece to get everything rolling. Once we've built the solar arrays, we've got the solar panels, we have perhaps batteries or whatever energy storage method we're going to use to power the giant electromagnet that we would need for this at least 160 meter long electromagnet. Everything else is essentially going to be free. It's going to be free to send things into space. We can use the wonderful fusion reactor in the sky to power everything. We'd want to build our mass driver on perhaps a crater ridge where we'd have maximal sunlight so that we could power our system. Constant daylight if we were on the rim of a crater, perhaps on the South Pole, where we're already thinking about the Artemis base, somewhere down there. Yeah, we need to get this mass driver going. Please let me know what aspect of space exploration or colonization you would like to know more about, or you would like to dig deeper into in the comments below. Hit that like button, please subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to know about future space videos. Thank you very much for watching, and have an excellent week.